We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, the podcast where we speak to songwriters and musicians about the art and craft of songwriting. I'm your host, Simon Fink, and thank you for joining us. Our guest today on the podcast is Healy, the musical project of Memphis native Ethan Healy. Blending elements of indie, pop, soul, R&B and electronic music, Healy crafts songs that feel both intimate and cinematic, often weaving genre-defying sounds into cohesive and emotionally rich experiences. His previous records have earned him praise from artists like Khalid and SZA, the latter of whom he went on to write with following the release of his sophomore album. Now this Friday, Healy returns with Force of Nature, his third full-length release. The album builds on the dreamy and genre-bending sound that he's become known for while pushing his songwriting into deeper and more reflective territory. It's an immersive listen that feels both grounded and transcendent. In today's episode, we're chatting with Healy about Force of Nature and the writing process behind it. We talk about the impact of receiving cosigns from artists like SZA and how that shapes his creative process. We also explore how he balances so many genres so seamlessly and how he manages to stay true to his vision while also pushing sonic boundaries. We want to say a huge thank you to Juliet for her help with today's episode and remind you that Force of Nature, the brand new record from Healy, is out this Friday. You'll find links in the show notes on where you can pre-order the record, stream his music, and follow Healy across his socials. While you are in the show notes, be sure to follow us across all of our socials and subscribe to this very podcast. It helps us out and it keeps you in the loop with all future guests and episodes. Now let's get into it. Here is our conversation with Healy. But you can take multitudes holding two souls at the very same time. It's a hard pill to swallow, but you be one tough act to follow. Tough shit. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Ethan Healy of the band Healy. Hello, sir. How are we?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming to have a chat with us today about a brand new record of yours. It's an exciting week. There's a new record from you coming out later this week. It's called Force of Nature. Firstly, congratulations on this beautiful record. How are you feeling with new music coming out?
I appreciate it. Honestly, release is such an important part of the process for me, just because the music is such an insular and self-reflective kind of tool that I use. And so it's nice to be able to share with everybody, the context of where I've been and, my both physical and kind of sonic environment. And also it's just nice to be able to let go and focus on other stuff, open some new doors and just, throw some fresh paint at the wall and see what sticks. But so I'm really excited to get the music out and pumped to move on in a way,
100%. I think there's obviously, for any kind of artist or creative, there is that journey of, and I know journey is kind of an overused word, but it is a journey of writing the music, creating it, putting it out into the world, and the putting it out is that last little bit. It's the fully relinquishing control almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, come upstairs. I'm going to bring my dog upstairs with me. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go. I don't know. I've actually been kind of thinking to find the real marrow, I guess, or get cut to the marrow of the release aspect of making music. And so just trying to really revel in it and really hone in on the feelings that I had while I was working on it and the people that I made it with, and just trying to celebrate with them as much as I can to make it feel this isn't this doesn't have to be this quick thing. It can be, this, we can, really live in this moment, I guess, and really revel in what we made. And so, yeah, all in all, just, ready to get it out, just excited for people to hear it. Cause this is this music feels, one thing I try to be really intentional about with this record, it was just being, kind of I don't know, just trying to make music that feels evergreen to me, because very often I'll work on stuff for years and then put it out and, fast forward 6 months and I'm cringing when I listen to it. And this music, I've sat with it for this long period of time, and it still feels like the first session that we worked on it. And I don't know, it's just, I'm just ready to, I'm really excited about it for the first time in a long time. That really doesn't always happen. So
that is incredibly refreshing to hear as well, because I think sometimes when artists live with music for a certain amount of time, there's that element of it not to necessarily become stale, but I think that you become almost just so used to it that there is maybe a lack of excitement or a lack of that pure love for it. So it's exciting to hear that. It is a beautiful record, sir. So I have to say that from the get-go, and I want to get into the sonics in a little bit and the songwriting. I am very curious, and for some fans who might not be aware of some of your previous work, I think this is the third record in the Healy project. That second record, Tungsten, had some pretty recognizable cosigns to it. I think Khalid was a bit of a fan. I think a young up-and-comer SZA might have been a bit of a cosign for yourself. I'm wondering, when you have people of that caliber and in the public eye admiring your music and obviously expressing their love for it, does that put any pressure on your creative process, or when you're creating that next album, does that come into play at all?
That's a great question. If anything, I don't necessarily think it puts any extra pressure on me, but if anything, it validates what I've been doing and what I've been working on and who I've been creatively. When I put the last album out and SZA DM'd me about it, the same day it came out, I was like, I didn't know what to do with my hands. I was like, what is this? And so it's just incredibly validating. Okay, I'm speaking my truth, and it's resonating with people to the degree that they are reaching out. And so if anything, it's fuel. It's kind of fuel to the fire. It's a little bit of oxygen to that tiny little campfire that really makes it roar. And so if anything, I think I feel the most pressure from myself, really. I don't really feel it from anybody else. It's mostly just self-inflicted.
Do you think that comes from, are you a bit of a somewhat perfectionist, would you say, when it comes to making music? Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. My whole life, every aspect of my life, I'm just my own harshest critic. And I've tried to get out of that way of thinking, mostly because I think it's the kryptonite of true art and really raw art. Because at the end of the day, humans are irrational. And so it only makes sense to let the music be a little irrational too, and not to beat it to a pulp and wring it dry and basically squeeze all the life out of it to where it's this really manicured and shiny thing. That last album, Tungsten, it was vocal handoff. I listened to the vocal production and vocal processing on it, and now I'm like, God, it sounds like I recorded this in a 5x5 sunroom, and which is actually where it was. And it's cool to just reflect on that and listen back. I'm like, okay, me, however many years ago would have been in this process and being no, I need to fine tune this. I need to get into the studio and record on a U87 with L2 or whatever the compression machines are, all that stuff. LA2A, that's what it is. But yeah, so I've been trying to get out of that way of thinking and just kind of let whatever comes out come out, and not try to scold it too much and scare it into being something that I think it's quote unquote supposed to be, because that's what's commercially viable. Just kind of getting back into the true meat and potatoes of making art. It should be fun, at the end of the day, and it's easy to lose track of that.
100% agreed. I think sometimes there is too much not necessarily thought. Obviously, you want thought and intention, but there is an element of that. Yeah, sometimes having that almost a little bit of carefree nature when it comes to creating can allow for something that is almost a little bit light, or a little bit. It doesn't feel weighed down by the burden of being an artist in a way. The sonics across this record, I think, almost kind of play into that. There's this gorgeous flow of different genres. It is incredibly versatile in its kind of sonics. It's got folk, pop, soul, rock. I think there's even a little bit elements of rap at some different points. At any point, and I know that you kind of said it then, you're not trying to put too much thought into it to allow it to be free and to be its own thing. How does that kind of work in the studio when there are so many different sonics going on, like to almost prevent it from not going off the rails? I imagine that you're not putting too many guardrails in to obviously have that element, but what then keeps it still going on track to be able to create some of the brilliant songs that you've created on here?
Well, first, I really appreciate the kind words. It means a lot. Seriously, I really care about the. I take a lot. There's a lot of intention that I put into like the overall soundscapes. Like I try and look at every song like this. I mean, like its own little planet, and like it's its own little planet in the solar system of the project. And you know, it's got to create dynamics, you know. And you bring up a really, really good. This is a great question because it's kind of giving me some time to reflect and realize how I kind of do it. And I think, you know, it's a very unconscious process. But with this record specifically, I think, and I kind of alluded to it before, but going into it, just trying to be brutally honest and let honesty kind of be the genre in a way. And like that main pillar of the music. And, you know, it's crazy when I hear people mention that, you know, it's a versatile or like dynamic project, because from my perspective, it kind of all not just sounds the same necessarily, but it doesn't really hit me as like, oh, here are 8 genres right in your face. It just, I feel like honesty and just like, yeah, I kind of am the genre there. And just I just want to make sure that I agree with it sonically, and that I'm not forcing it. Because a lot of I think the songs that like didn't end up making the project, I was like, you know, toiling over them for months, being like, I just messaging my friends, being like, hey, I did this, or like sending it to my managers, being like, hey, here's this version, and you know, they do their, you know, they'd be supportive, or you know, be like, hey, this isn't it, and you know, I just kept kind of going on them, and they never panned out, and so I had a moment where I was like, I'm not going to force this, like if this doesn't feel right in this like inner, I don't know, there's this like threshold that the music needs to create in me feeling wise, and if it's not hitting that threshold, then it can't be on it. So I mean, I really think that, to answer your question, and then like short, because I've just been so verbose and going off the rails here, but I really think the boundaries that I used were just like truth and honesty, and actually like leaning into some of the sounds that I wanted to explore that I hadn't really had the chance to explore. Like there's this really cool like drum and bass moment that happens on the outro of Earthquakes that it's so like Aphex Twinny. And my roommate and I back in med school, we loved Aphex Twin, and I never really had the chance to explore some of those like sonic palettes. And then there's like, you know, the folky kind of rendition of 13 at the end that, you know, I grew up listening to that song, and I've grown up on music like Crosby, Stills and Nash and Neil Young and Jackson Browne, that Laurel Canyon era of songwriters. And I never really got to like try that and like put my spin on it. And so that was a fun opportunity to kind of pull some of those elements into the music. And yeah, really, it's just like, I think the boundaries were truth, fun, and like grace, I think. Yeah. Not trying to force anything. Yeah, I think that's probably where I'll leave you with that answer, so I don't just continue for another 30 minutes.
No, I love that though. And to be honest, I swear, I'm not sure if you're actually able to read my notes that I have now, because I was going to ask about both 13 and Earthquakes, but I might focus on Earthquakes. I love that song. I might be a little bit self-indulgent in wanting to bring up my favorite track on the record, but as you said, the way like that it starts and that it builds, and then all of a sudden, like that kind of, electronic Aphex Twin kind of inspired outro, just it kind of like flipped my brain when I was listening to it, and kind of then had to just put it on repeat for a few times.
Oh, man.
Wondering whether you might be able to talk us through the creation of that and where it kind of comes from being able to start at that point of the song, and then obviously where it ends in that electronic kind of space.
Yeah, I mean, well, interestingly enough, like I made the song with one of my friends, Zach, and my friend Lido, and they're kind of like, they've been big in like the Amine, like Jordan Ward camp. Zach just executive produced the whole Sailor album, which is so good. And so they're just virtuosic. And it was another great example of just like starting the session with the boundaries of fun. We were just like in the house before going into the studio, just Zach had picked up a guitar, and I think he was playing like the kind of the heart of that song, like the main refrain, and we were just kind of like jokingly yelping these like almost like I don't know, they were like twangy kind of lyrics, just like really emphasizing the twang, and so I think we looked at each other, we're like, why don't we just like try that and just kind of lean into it. And they had just set up the Patch Bay and Lido studio, and so we had all the fun little like gadgets and tools at our disposal. And so, you know, we were just doing a bunch of sound exploration, and really just, we didn't want to overburden the song with a lot of like drums. That's something that Lido does a really good job of. He injects rhythm into music without really slamming it right in your face. And I think I wrote the hook and the verse that day in the studio, and then bounced around between ideas for a second verse, honestly, and ended up just scrapping the entire second verse, and went back in with Zach and Lido, and we kind of picked it apart and adjusted things, because it wasn't as like you said, it starts really, really grounded in that acoustic guitar, and it's pretty stripped back, and it wasn't always like that. I was playing guitar for Zach, and he was like, what if we started the song that way? And I was like, I'm down for whatever. And so it kind of, I like there to be not necessarily a directly linear progression within music, within songs specifically, but like I think there has to be displacement, and there has to be dynamics, and in my opinion, there needs to be growth in some way. And so I think starting it in that like really stripped back acoustic way allowed us to leave some bigger inflections on the hook, and then think about how we wanted the song to kind of climax in a way. And Zach randomly was just like, what if we phased two different drum breaks together at the end? And it was before I knew it, it was like done. It was there within, he had it wrapped up in like a few minutes. And so, yeah, that was a really, really, it was a fun song to work on. Just cause there are a lot of like elements of that piece, or of that music, that, I've never really gotten to explore and lean into. And so it was a great experience for sure.
I absolutely love that. Thank you very much for sharing.
I'm glad you love it, man. That's huge. I really, it means a lot, because that's also one of my favorite ones too.
It's a great track. It is. No, so I love that we've kind of, well, obviously you've hit on something very special with it. So it is a gorgeous track and a gorgeous album. But I do want to quickly ask whether fans can expect to see you taking this album on the road and playing some shows in support.
I mean, yeah, hopefully. Definitely. I think the state that live music is in right now. Like everybody wants to tour. And so I think holds are probably booked up for the rest of this year, but I think probably next spring is when we'll look to get on the road with it. Because that's one of my favorite parts, I think, is like being able to share the music with people and share the experience and kind of like, I don't know, just get to connect and put names to faces. Like I'm on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok like every day, getting to know as many people as I can that are tapped into the music and trying to build our own kind of little island and community within it. And so that's like one of the best ways to cement that community is just to get like some really good quality FaceTime, like to be able to look people in the eyes when I'm singing these words that they've either got tattooed on them or, you know, that they've put in their like senior yearbooks or something, just to like kind of, it's a beautiful moment of loop closure. And so hopefully next spring is when I would like to think, unless some kind of support spot just shows up out of nowhere, in which case I'll be all for it because I love the road.
Well, look, very excited to kind of see some of those dates, and hopefully, I think we were lucky enough to be in the States this spring, and hopefully we're going to try and make it back next spring. So if those dates align, fingers crossed. Very excited to kind of come see you.
Just let me know, and you guys are on the list. Just come through.
That is very kind. That is very kind. Very quickly, I do want to ask, usually we wrap things up asking, I guess, what they're currently listening to. Is there any release at the moment that you're got on high rotation?
Oh, yeah. I just got put on to this artist named Liam, Liim. He's based out of Brooklyn. Really, really cool. It's like the laxity that he makes music with. I'm always gonna listen to music that makes me feel cool, and this music makes me feel so cool. Like I'm riding my bike around the neighborhood, just like headphones in and just rinsing this EP. And so Liam is really good. It kind of reminds me of like, he kind of could sit probably in like the Tyler, like Steve Lacy kind of world, but there's this I don't know, there's just like this swagger that he has that is really unique to him. And then Becky and the Birds. Becky and the Birds is so sick. She's this Swedish artist and producer that is she's kind of bubbling right now, having a little moment. And she just is, it's the kind of music that's off-putting, but in the most like addictive way. And by the time you put it on loop for 20 times, you're like, oh, okay, this is beautiful. Actually, this isn't off-putting anymore. I love this. And so I think she gets me out of my comfort zone listening to her music. She uses a lot of really unique textures in her music, and just overall like structure of her songs is really cool, because there's no like obviously there are verses and choruses, but there are also these, it's just a little more amorphous, which I think music needs to be shaken up a little bit nowadays, you know.
100% agree. I think that we're starting to see more and more artists that don't simply stick to one genre, or do have the ability to blend different elements together, which I think kind of I think you said it just before, it makes it interesting. It kind of shakes it up and allows listeners to have their expectations subverted, which I think is good. Sometimes it's nice to have that kind of,
yeah, absolutely.
Left turn.
Yeah, we need to be like put out of our comfort zone every now and then, because there's no way you can't grow as well as you might be able to if you don't, Exactly. I'm very excited for people to hear this record. We are going to make sure that we put links in today's show notes on where people can stream the record, buy the record, follow you on social media, all that fun stuff. But Ethan, I appreciate you coming onto the pod and chatting to us about this new Healy record. Thank you so much for your time today, mate. Thank you, man. I really appreciate you having me on. It really means a lot.